Hi, I'm Tumelo Nwanma.
And I'm John Richey.
And we're the curators of this year's Pace Staff Show 2023 in Being Double.
I feel like our working process again was like very natural, and like certain words and ideas really started to stand out. Things like double and twin and mirror and portal.
In coming up with the name of the exhibition, we took all those keywords and we also applied them to the physical space.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Like we took the curatorial prompt and this idea of doubling, and we made sure that it was the through line for everything. Yep. The entire purpose of this kind of programming is to platform our colleagues and to really highlight the efforts of who they are outside of the PACE umbrella as artists, as creators, as cultural thinkers, as curators. So it's an incredible opportunity. Yeah. And I know for myself, I didn't submit any works for the show. I wouldn't consider myself a traditional artist. I was just happy to sort of be a purveyor and a voyeur and organizer. But I know for myself, the idea of doubling, is a weighty one. I think, as a Black woman, I was definitely thinking through the ways that double consciousness and doubling sort of exists in my day-to-day, because there is this very clear thought between the understanding of like the professional self and the creative, casual self, but also the Black self that exists in the space, and sort of making room for that as well, and sort of understanding how that kind of doubling can affect my perspective as a curator. I've always been interested in this idea of storytelling, and I think there is something incredibly interesting about making room for the stories that artists tell themselves while taking that and translating those stories for a wider audience.
I think that it's sort of like an opportunity to kind of demystify the space that, like, from the outside, it is this sort of like amazing, beautiful kind of behemoth of a building that's beautifully architected and designed, with all of these sort of amenities, and that, like it really is a space that people can just walk into and come and see the amazing work that people are making.
I think one of the biggest things that we were trying to think through is how to have an accessible exhibition in terms of capital A accessibility, and also getting bodies through the door. PACE was one of the first galleries to even think through this idea of putting on museum-level curatorial shows. I think before it was mainly single artist shows, very geared towards sales and really thinking through how to put things on for a commercial view. But PACE was really Arnie Glimcher, like when it first started, and I think Mark has continued this tradition of really thinking through how to put on museum level shows that think through education and history, art history, the history and legacy of an artist, but also the history and legacy of the space, and sort of how that is being communicated and translated to visitors of different levels of understanding when it comes to art and art history.
I think a piece that I was really surprised by seeing in person, it was a late entry, but Carbon's piece.
Yeah.
Carbon's amazing, like silk, like acid dye print on silk, which has this phenomenal, like textile work, I think is like amazing.
Yeah, I think Carbon's piece is really special. I think once it was actually installed on the wall, you get this sense of this incredible movement that is also kind of spooky and ghostly. I think Dawood Emmanuel's piece, Three Generations, it's this wood sculpture that is installed on the wall, and it is reclaimed wood from his home in India that is representative of the three generations of men in his family, so his father, grandfather, and himself, and sort of this sense of selfhood, the ideas of legacy and memory, and sort of how those collate and exist in the same space. So I think that is an incredible example of In Being Double.
One of the other pieces that I was really excited to see was the video by our colleague from Geneva, Sarah Bisson, who also goes by the moniker Capitalist Whore,
Which we love.
Which we love.
Yes.
But the video pieces that we made, that she submitted, that we have on display, I think speak very clearly to this idea of kind of altars and avatars. I think that some of the figures in the video pieces are maybe like self-portraits. Have always been drawn to Patrick Grady's photographs.
Yeah.
I think they're like really special, and he has on display in this exhibition sort of two sets of framed photographs of the surface of water that are like Polaroid photographs that are presented right next to each other. So you see the horizon line as this continual kind of movement across both photographs, but they're very simple, they're very elegant, so they're similar and yet different, which I think is like a perfect example of this type of theme that we were interested in. In the work that I do here as a registrar, I rely heavily on our research and archives team, and we talked about how it could be a great opportunity to collaborate with them. And when it comes to putting together catalogs and things like that, they're the people who are sort of like in the trenches doing all of that research. So they were generous enough to put together this amazing curated reading list where they took the prompt that we had written for the exhibition and went back through the PACE archives and pulled together a selection of like 10 or 12 publications that they felt resonated with and spoke to the theme of the exhibition.
Yeah, and in speaking to this idea of legacy, I think the curated reading list was an opportunity to anchor our artists in the show in context as well. Yeah. Context within not just PACE legacy, but also the roster of artists who have contributed to 60 plus years of programming. One thing about art is, in working in the gallery space, is that we work here, but also the art is in constant proximity. Yeah. The artists are in constant proximity. So there is this constant conversation and interconnectedness that is happening. So the curated reading list was a way to highlight the ways that those connections are being made and to sort of anchor the context of the work.